It is the first time a major credit agency has revised Washington's financial outlook from a stable one to a negative. Moody's report taking issue with how lawmakers are balancing the state budget. Although Moody's has not downgraded Washington's AAA bond rating, the warning means the state could be at risk of losing that rating if things continue on this path. So right now, only 18 states have a AAA bond rating, the highest rating given to states who are financially robust and likely to pay back its debt on time. Washington clinched that spot back in 2019. If we lose the AAA bond rating, it would raise the cost of borrowing money, and it would create a financial spiral impacting everything from school bonds, taxes, raising the budget deficit, and to our infrastructure projects. State Treasurer Mike Pelliciotti sat down with me earlier to discuss that outlook. We know that it went from stable to negative. It is a warning. Now, for somebody listening to this interview, right, Washingtonians thinking, what is the significance of this? Please explain to us kind of in simple terms of what that means.
Sure. Well, I do think it's significant. So when you talk about a credit rating, it's kind of like folks have an individual credit score. It helps determine whether or not people loan you money, how much money they're willing to loan you, at what interest rate you have to pay it back. Well, the state issues what are called bonds, which is essentially the way we borrow money to do infrastructure projects. And our credit rating determines what we pay on the interest to pay that money back.
The AAA bonding is really very, very important, and we want to make it clear that they're not downgrading that. Well, not yet, and your job is to make sure that it doesn't get there. But where are we now, if you could compare us on the spectrum? Are we at that cliff?
Well, I would say it's almost like your car engine warning light has just gone on. You got to fix it, right? And so what Moody's just indicated, as you said, was a negative outlook, which is that they have some concerns with how the legislature has been budgeting in recent years. And they're saying, hey, legislature, you need to fix that, or we might do a downgrade related to your credit rating, and that would have a huge impact.
So what are the one or two things that you think caused Moody's to say, wait a second, they're not going in the right direction?
Well, the good thing is Moody's actually says exactly what they're concerned about. They don't leave you guessing. And one of the things they focus on is what's called a structurally imbalanced budget, which means that in recent years, the legislature has relied on things called reserves, which are kind of like the rainy day fund, money setting aside, to essentially balance the budget. Every year, the legislature balances the budget, but it's structurally imbalanced, meaning more expenses are being paid than revenue coming in, and they're using reserves to fill that gap.
And let's talk about that. $880 million in reserves is what they pulled out in the last legislative session. Was that a mistake?
Well, it was definitely risky, and that's what I communicated both publicly and privately related to that there was a risk associated with it. Now, the reason they did it is because the Trump administration had reduced the amount of Medicaid funding by $800 million. But the problem is when you take money out of your savings, you have to immediately replenish it. And what the credit rating agency is saying is they're waiting too long in their budget cycle to put that money back. That money needs to be put back into the budget.
You're saying the check engine light is on. So what do they have to do next year so that way the state doesn't break down?
Well, it's something that needs to be fixed, which means that you can't keep spending more money than you're bringing in. You can't rely on reserves. You can't rely on your savings to fill that gap.
Where do you stand on the income tax?
Well, one of the things that I've always said related to that is any new tax should be getting rid of our regressive tax system. That is the decision the legislature made in terms of bringing forward that proposal. What I can tell you is what Moody's is saying right now, which is that the legislature is relying on that to balance the budget in fiscal year 2029, meaning in essentially 3 years it has to balance. So we're in a situation where if that doesn't pass or is overturned in some way, that could create an instability in the budget. And that was one of the concerns that Moody's actually highlighted.
So as you just heard, the Democrats are relying on the so-called millionaire's tax. That's what I'm talking about when I mentioned the income tax there, to balance the budget in the future with money coming in starting in 2029. But that is only if legal challenges against the income tax fail. Republican budget leader Representative Travis Couture reacting to Moody's report, saying in part, Moody's has confirmed what we have been saying for months. The math in Olympia does not add up. You cannot spend record amounts of taxpayer money, raid pension funds, and fail to deliver on the basics without consequences. For years, the majority has treated the state budget like a blank check, doubling spending over the last decade. They pushed through an $80 billion budget that spends more than the state brings in, even with record tax collections. We also reached out to Governor Ferguson for a response, and his office saying, quote, Washington has the highest bond rating in the country, and we're working hard to keep it. Right now, Washington State has 8% in financial reserves. The state treasurer saying by 2028, that reserve is expected to dip lower than 2%.